Bohmer, arguably one of the best melodic house producers there is at the moment. His signature sound is something we all love and we all want to work towards creating, those lush, beautiful, organic, warm sounding tracks. And I believe I have the starting process of one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through it piece by piece and build some of the drums and just maybe run over a rough arrangement just before the end of the video. So yeah, let's go then. Okay, so let me give you a playthrough of what we've got to start off with, and then we will go from there. So that's our starting idea. Now
Whoa, what?
I am sorry, I don't speak English. Very good.
If I can speak English, where I started was with these chords, and they alone sound like this. Very emotional chords. Now, if I bring up Diva here, I can actually show you that the chords were in fact built from a bass lead preset patch that I had. Now, simply all I did on this patch was switch the main oscillators to the dual VCO, change VCO 1 down 12 semitones, and then leave VCO 2 as is, switch VCO number 1 to a saw wave and the same VCO2. However, whatever you do to VCO1 isn't really going to matter because you're moving all of your mix to VCO2 anyway. As you can tell, I've not really done one of these before, so this is interesting. And then what you're going to want to do after that is essentially just leave things as is and just copy what you want to from here. So if you want to, just in the interest of saving time, I'm not going to go entirely through it, but if you would like to copy the preset, do feel free now. And then, yeah, simply in terms of actual MIDI information, it's written in D sharp minor, and essentially all I've just gone in is D sharp, B, and then a G sharp. And now this G note here, yes, it's not in scale, however, I liked how it sounded, so leave me alone, because without it, it just sounds like this. Just sounds kind of boring, whereas if you add in that G, it sounds a lot more, I don't know, detuned, and it adds that sort of mysterious feeling that Ben Bohmer uses in a lot of his tracks, a lot like Lifespan. But yeah, it adds more suspense to it as well, and tension. Now in terms of processing, what I've really done is a roll off the low end just to make more space for the bass. Add a little bit of Valhalla Vintage verb here, just like this on the standard preset. I've just turned the mix down. And then add a compressor here just to squash down those peaks. A TDR over here, which I sidechain to the bass to make sure the mids don't get in the way of the bass, which is very plucky. And then just added on a sidechain here on the end. Now, if I move to this arcade patch, I'm not really going to go over this, as this is simply frozen for my CPU's sanity, and for my sanity, so the CPU doesn't explode and take down my entire house with it. So that is just a simple vocal chant here. I can't remember where I got it from. Again, no external processing, just left everything as is. And then if you move on to this, now this is quite an interesting element here. In a lot of his tracks, Bohmer likes to use these gliding, pitch-bended synths. They almost sound like they're, I wouldn't say screaming, but I wouldn't say they are quiet synths. You know, I'll give them a play on their own. You can have a listen. Now, just before I do get onto the Diva patch, I would just like to go over the MIDI information here, so I think this is quite interesting. Now, in terms of the actual notes it's playing, it's easy. It's just playing a D sharp and a G sharp. However, what gives it that sort of pitch bend here that turns into a siren sort of element is around here-ish. And how I've done that is I've gone to envelopes here in the MIDI editor, gone to MIDI control, and just added a pitch bend here. So it comes down and then pitch bends back up again. And then if you were to, in fact, what you can do to make it more smooth is you can actually bring this change in a lot sooner, so it's not as sudden, and it sounds like this. However, I actually quite like how it sounds when it's sudden, so I'm leaving it as it is. And that again helps just add more layers on top of these chords, because together with the chords they sound like this. Now, on to the interesting part, which is the Diva patch here. Now, this is actually left from the init patch. I haven't really changed much from the initial init patch. All I've done here is just turn down a bit of the lag, I believe, and just added a lot more glide on top. And now, if you would like to copy this again, please do feel free. I'll leave this up for another second or two. Put multi-core in just again so my CPU doesn't explode. And yeah, feel free to copy here. There we go. Now, moving on to external processing. Again, some more Valhalla Vintage Verb. I use this plugin more than any other plugin on the planet, probably, as this is the best reverb out there and you cannot change my mind. Again, just an EQ to roll off the low end and bring in some of these mids here, just a small dip. And then again, a compressor just to squash the peaks down. Now, this is probably one of my favourite bass patterns I think I've ever made, and it's probably the best bass sound I've ever been able to create away from my Moog. And it sounds like this. Now, this bass sound is heavily inspired by Ben Bohmer's Fade to Blue, in which he has that really groovy sub bass going on. And in terms of actual notation, sorry, I meant to say MIDI. It's just playing the root notes of the chords, but it's playing a sort of stagnated pattern, a bit like a rolling bass that you traditionally see in techno. However, it's just a lot more groovy, and it helps just add more movement to the track. Now, these little parts here where it's going up a few notes, again, it's just to add variation and interest between your chord changes. Just so it's not just your boring, stagnated, changes in chords, and it helps to account for any any lack of attack. So say, for example, in the chorus there's a very short attack on them. I wanted this to sort of just add more groove and add more movement, so the chords feel more natural, and if I play them alone without these little bits of groove, you can tell this is my first proper YouTube video, so I'm yapping. I'm fluent in Japanese, they say. Never saying that again. Just have a listen to this without those little notes here and there. Again, just very, very boring. Now, in terms of external processing, you can see here I've actually sent it to its own return channel. Now, this is actually a tip I got from La over at Out of the Loop, where he essentially says to send your bass to a reverb, and here I've again used our recurring favourite, the lively snare and preset from Valhalla Vintage Verb, and essentially just helps add more transient and adds more room to your bass, because without this return verb it sounds like this. Not bad, but there's no room in it. But when you add the reverb back in, yeah, it has more room and adds a lot more colour to your bass. Now, in terms of external processing, again, there's not an awful lot. All they've got is a saturator going on, an EQ, which is rolling off on the low end, and boosting some of these highs just to make sure the bass punches through, and then again, another sidechain. Now, I will go through this sidechain preset in a different video. That is not for now because that's spoilers. Now onto the final bit. This is more of a tip, really. Again, I got from a Production Music Live video when they sat with Ben Bohmer and he made a track with their orchestral tools, melodic house, acoustic melodic house pack, sorry. And they essentially sat there and he grabbed a melodic percussion loop and chopped it up, pitch bended it, and made a really nice background idea. Now, this idea actually came straight after the chords because I sat here looking for good percussion loops. I went over to my PML packs and went up to the acoustic melodic house pack, and as you can see here, it's here in the orchestral tools one, D sharp minor, perfect, right in key, and it sounds like this. Actually, it's this really nice shaker and it adds some really nice texture. But all I've done is I've left the actual audio file alone. As you can see, no transient changing, no pitch bending anywhere, no transposition even. Again, roll off the low end, put some reverb onto it, just add more room, and again, that sidechain preset. Now, from here, I'm thinking I'm going to do drums off camera, purely because I don't want to bore you, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we are back after doing the drums. Now, let me give you just a play of the drums on their own first, so you have an idea of what they sound like. Again, very, very simple. All of them, apart from obviously this shaker loop that I spoke about earlier on, are actually taken from the same sample pack from PML. They are taken from the Ben Bohmer Melodic Deep sample pack here. Now, all I've done here is take kick number 2, which sounds like this, and just add a simple 4 to the floor, add some drum bus on top and an EQ just to clean it up and make room for the bass here. Again, this percussion here is percussion number 6, just down here. So that's just playing a little fill that sounds like this. And that just helps to keep the movement going. And this here is just a little shake loop which I've made. Simple, and all that's done is from grabbing this one here. It's actually number 2, actually. This here is just a hat loop. I believe this is hat loop number 9. Yep, thought so. And it sounds like this. Again, that's just helping add more movement. And this here down here is our main top loop. Now, this is probably my favourite top loop. I actually use this on a lot of my tracks. It's just really good and simple, and it keeps some groove going. And again, all I've done here is just boost the highs up to give it more space. And now, as you'll again notice, a lot of these have been sent to a reverb channel, a return channel even. And this essentially just adds more room to your drums and stops you from having to individually add reverbs to them, which can help on CPU, which helps if, like me, you have a computer. And again, here, just on the group processing, I've just added a full parallel glue compressor preset from Ableton, which is this one here. And they sound like this, all together with the kick and everything. There we go. Unfortunately, I won't have time to go through the arrangement. However, I have given you guys a really good in-depth breakdown of how to create the start of a track, at least if you want it to sound like Ben Bohmer, as I think this sounds incredibly close to Fade to Blue, actually dangerously close. But again, this is probably how he would have made it, again with the sort of plucky rhythmic bass idea and the screaming sirens and the really simple pads. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I do apologise for being fluent in Japanese. I do yap a lot in videos, and I will certainly try to cut that all down for you. But again, please let me know what you think in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe and like the video.